senior commanders now are saying is some of the most intense urban combat that the U.S. military has seen since Vietnam. So following the battle for Fallujah in 2004, the Marines were launching one operation after another through the Euphrates River Valley. It eventually culminated towards the end of 2005 in Operation Steel Curtain that was taking place in this small little dusty town right along the Syrian border called Husayba.
Wide dispersion, let's go!
And we're talking street-to-street urban combat, the kind of fighting where the militants would be hiding behind doors, in alleyways. The men are now on alert for rockets, mortars, and any other kind of artillery that might be in this area. I was embedded on that operation. And there's one man who I met there who has stayed with me throughout all of the years.
Out of scores of people we talk to here about the American presence, Rejeh is the only one willing to publicly say this.
We want them to save us from the terrorists. We want stability.
And he was the only person who had ever dared say to me on camera, not asking that his identity be concealed. He said, yes, the terrorists are here and we want to be saved. And that, at that point in time, was a stunning statement and true courage. 2 days later, the airstrikes had been quite intense.
There, hold the wall, right there, go, 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 go.
We actually were able to get to the scene of the aftermath of one of these airstrikes. We heard that an entire family had been massacred. At the house itself that had been hit, people were still trying to dig through the rubble because there was one body that they couldn't find. And in the middle of all of this chaos, I saw Mohammed again. And it was his relatives. And at one point he looked over and realized that I was there just as the body was being brought out. And he says, look at him. You would think he was sleeping. And this little 11-year-old boy was just covered in this gray ash. I've often wondered, what does a man like that think? A person who really wanted the Americans to come in and save them from al-Qaeda. Not out of love he had for the Americans, he most certainly blamed them for the fact that al-Qaeda was there, but because at that point in time, they were the only force that existed that could have actually gotten rid of al-Qaeda and restored a certain semblance of at least, stability and security. And here he was, the man who then lost 17 of his relatives. We went back to find him. So we've just arrived to Husayba, and frankly, I hardly recognize it right now. The same street that we had gone in on was a thriving, bustling marketplace. So we gave one of our stringers who kind of works in this area a photograph, a screen grab from the footage that we had of Muhammad, and we told him the story, and then he began trying to track him down. It turns out he's pretty well known, but we think his shop is right around the corner here. And we went in, and he has this shop at the market, and he was just so friendly and so welcoming. And then we went on a walk, and, we're walking through the same streets that we had back in 2005. So he remembers exactly how the military unit that I was with actually approached his house in his street, and we'd come up from this narrow alleyway. And this part I do remember, but in that house right there was a foreign fighter who had just been killed by the U.S. forces. It's like this bizarre tour down a street or a town of horrors. Al-Qaeda had this here, they had that there. This person was killed here, this person was killed there. This young man now, Muhammad, was the baby that he was carrying in his arms when we first met him. But then we also finally had an opportunity to ask him all these questions of, why did you take that risk? at that point in time when you knew that you could have been killed? And he said, you know, we had nothing left to lose. And then we went to the graveyard, which is this dusty, small graveyard that isn't even the town's main graveyard, but it's where they had to bury the bodies because they couldn't actually get to the main graveyard. And it's row upon row with the same date on it of that day in November 7th, 2005. And now Muhammad, too, says that he regrets the day the Americans came to Iraq. He was also one of those people who believed that their lives would somehow get better, that agreed that, you know, living under Saddam Hussein, he was an oppressive regime. They did want the Americans to come in. They did want this dream of a better life, and now he regrets it completely and utterly.
Inside the Middle East, in association with Qatar Foundation.
They say beauty is in the eye of the beholder. And when it comes to camels, few appreciate that beauty more than Nasser al-Hadri. For the past decade, this wealthy Saudi oil contractor has been searching for the most beautiful camels in the world. And in 4-year-old Gouda, he likes what he sees.
I love it. It is number one here. It is not number two.
Al-Hadri's friends and family helped him pick this camel. He paid nearly $2.5 million for it, and he's betting she will help him secure a major prize.
Due to the graphic nature of the following content, it may not